It is lights out and away we go. Hello, racers. Welcome to episode 33 of the Hard or Soft F1 podcast. I am your host, Adrian Huff, and I'm joined by my co-host, RJ McCullough. How you doing, RJ?
Fantastic. Unbelievable. Just a great USGP. I say everything's bigger in Texas. It certainly lived up to it. It wasn't just great. In fact, it was, bear with me just for a second, it was
fucking beautiful.
I can hear that. It was Max's radio there. So yeah, that was all things considered, just a great race. Unfortunately Lewis couldn't get it done, but yeah, great race. We've got a couple things to get into before we get into the race. Do you want me to do my chug now or later?
That's up to you, man. If you want to go ahead and get it out of the way, that's okay. But I understand if you want to wait.
All right, let's just do it. So, since they won, Max, as Christian so kindly put it at the end of the race there, Max is not only the world champion, but Red Bull is the world champion. I thought it would only be appropriate that I did a Heineken in honor of them. I'll also put on Max's song while I drink this, so you can filibuster, because I don't know, this is going to be a lot harder to chug, but
yeah,
I don't know if you'll be able to hear. Super Max, I hate this.
Super Max, baby.
This is what I get.
Dude, I can't believe I'm losing in our F1 standings, because the amount of times you've chugged on this show is unbelievable. But look at him go. Yes, Max pulled it off this week, and once again he's chugging because of it. My God, look at him. He's a beast. An absolute animal. I guarantee you that would have taken me 10 times longer.
A couple drops left, but...
Oh, no, that's... Dude... Respectable.
I'll get this song out of there. Ugh.
Beautiful. Fucking beautiful.
Like a song.
I'm glad I listened to that clip right before we started recording, because I would not have had any context on what that was from.
Beautiful.
Fucking beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Only Max. Actually, that was one of my favorite Max radio calls of all time.
Yeah, that was
It was
great.
just it was perfect. They did totally mess it up, and he wasn't just like, fuck you guys, you ruined this. He just... Beautiful. Fucking beautiful.
Great.
So that was
just
great. But yeah, there's no real good way to transition. But if you want to say on the matter of Red Bull, I'll let you handle this one, because I'm not too familiar with this fella.
Before,
Unless
sadly...
there's something else you want to do?
No. I was saying before the news broke of him passing away, I also didn't really know who he was. I'm probably gonna butcher his name, Dietrich Mateschitz. I'm so white.
Mateschitz?
Mateschitz. Yeah, I'm so sorry for my horrible pronunciation. I'm also slightly under the weather, so my voice might sound a little bit weird. But if I sound normal to you, then that means I'm getting better. So cool. But yes, he passed away. So a little bit before the podcast, looked up a couple of facts about him. All of these come from zbiz.com. It's a foreign business site, I believe. It looks like it's Saudi Arabian, but I'm not sure. But yes, he passed away. He was the co-owner of Red Bull. He owned 49.9% of Red Bull, which is pretty interesting. His net worth when he died was it is $27.4 billion. So wealthy fella. But he co-founded the actual company Red Bull in 1984 with a Austrian Thai billionaire was his co-founder or his co-partner. I lost my place. Yes, when they started Red Bull, their market share quickly rose in Europe, and then of course they branched over to the United States. Essentially, I mean, to be fair, he did kind of build almost an empire. I mean, F1 aside, Red Bull is everywhere. It is, I mean, I would argue it's the most popular energy drink across the world for sure, but I mean, I guess here in America, Monster's pretty popular. But in 2004, they bought the Jaguar F1 team from Ford and rebranded it as Red Bull. That was when we got our first Red Bull season back in 2005. And then they bought the Minardi F1 team and changed it to Toro Rosso, now known as AlphaTauri. Which I also didn't know this. I kind of wish it was still Toro Rosso, because that literally translates to Red Bull in Italian, which I also didn't know. I'm a fake fan. But yeah, very sad. You know, I wouldn't necessarily compare him to like a Niki Lauda for sure. But I mean, it definitely seems like he, from the outside looking in, you know, seemed to be like a great owner. You know, obviously he's done some pretty remarkable things in motorsport. Yes, that is just the few things that I was able to find in just about a half hour. I highly recommend you go and search out more information about him and how Red Bull kind of got started, because it's very fascinating. Sort of a black sheep team. They kind of have always been, but I don't know how he is feeling about what he kind of left at a really weird time for Red Bull. I'm not gonna lie, that might be a little insensitive to say, but yeah, Red Bull, they're kind of, there's a lot of controversy surrounding them right now. But yes, rest in peace. Obviously, condolences to his whole family and to all of Red Bull. I did really like that a lot of the pit crew and the pit wall were wearing like jeans, just because that he was always wearing jeans. It was sort of just a way to honor him. So I thought that was cool. It's always nice when teams sort of honor their upper members when they pass away, because it's very sad. But yes, that was sort of the news that Red Bull got. Or the news that Red Bull got. That was sort of like some sad news that broke right before the Austin GP. But we've had a lot of news break during the Austin GP. We're going to, of course, get to the actual race, but there's just a lot of stuff to talk about, like not even regarding the race. I mean, speaking of Americans, we might have one driving in F1 next year, which is exciting.
It looks like we will. Just a couple real quick things on Dietrich. I think they said on the broadcast that there's like 8 guys right now that came in under, I guess, his ownership or whatever. So obviously all the current Red Bull guys, but I guess Vettel and Ricciardo were under Red Bull at one point. Yep. A couple other guys. So, and then they came. I guess they bought Jaguar F1 team, and that became Red Bull. So that's kind of interesting. So it would have been kind of. I think it'd be kind of cool if Jaguar still had an F1 team, but
would be cool.
So
that's my mom's favorite car. That's like her dream car is a Jaguar. It's a little tidbit.
Yeah, they're nice. And maybe one day you'll be able to get her one with this podcast.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to, you mentioned another rookie maybe coming in. We got Logan Sargeant joining Williams, an American. I was hoping it was going to be Colton Herta, but we'll take what we can get. What do you think as you're a fellow American of his? I don't know too much about him. He just kind of came up on the surface a few weeks ago. I think I may have been quoted as saying there's no chance he's in F1 next year. But hey, sometimes you win some, you lose some, and that turns out I lost that one. But he did like FP1 this week. He's in F2. I think he has to get like top 6.
Yep.
In points for F2 to qualify for his super license, and if he does that, then he will be alongside Albon next year. So yeah, it'll be cool to see an American in there. Have they made like a big deal of this in the States? Is this a guy you're aware of, really? Like, what's your thoughts as an American?
Not at all. Never heard of him before, doing research for this podcast. I definitely think it's cool. I obviously think I would personally prefer Herta, but IndyCar sadly does not get the same rep that F2 does for some reason. But I think it's a good opportunity for potential more exposure on the sort of in the West. But I mean, that's got to be a lot of pressure. I mean, even if you're pretty good driver, I mean, anything can happen in F2. I mean, he could have a bad quali or someone could ruin his race. I mean, anything is possible. That's just got to be like pretty draining on him. But I mean, he's 3rd in F2 right now, so I mean, it's not really completely out of the realm of possibility. It's extremely likely, but I don't necessarily.
How many races do they even have?
I don't know who Drogovic is sort of signed with. He tested with McLaren, didn't he? Felipe, he's currently leading, but I don't know. I
think he already like clinched it, right? I think we talked about that.
Oh yeah, he's long past winning that for sure.
But the guy, I know Alex Palou, the guy in Indy, he was with McLaren this week, and he was only like 3/10 off Lando Norris, and it was his first time in an F1 car. So I know he impressed a lot of people, and he was the guy that had like the drama earlier with whether he was going to be on another IndyCar team or whether he was going to be with McLaren. So
right.
I'm just looking at their schedule here. September. It looks like they only have one race left. So
yep.
Yeah, their calendar's their standings are pretty locked in. He should be in there then, based on that.
I don't know. I personally, I don't know. I think it's cool, good for him. But I mean, so many of our amazing current F1 drivers have been F2 champions. So I think it's a little unfair that Drugovich isn't really getting a shot at a seat because he's complete. Yeah. I mean, he has over 100 points clear of Sargeant. So, but that's just the business. Can't really do anything about it. But also, can I see your cup? Oh, okay. It's the Blue Jays. I don't know why it looked like the old classic '90s styrofoam cup to me. I was like, no fucking way you're rocking that shit. But that's also respectable. But I was a little off track.
Another loser.
But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be happy to see anybody in Latifi's seat besides him personally.
Oh man, yeah, he had another spin just absolutely out of nowhere. I know Bottas that said his was due to wind. I don't know what Latifi's excuse was, but just at least with Bottas, it doesn't happen all the time. It's once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Latifi doesn't get the benefit of the doubt anymore, and yeah, 3 races left. Stroll did pretty good though. I mean, he was up there for a long time. So
yeah, he did.
And I can't believe he's still so young. So he could, I guess, develop into decent. I don't know.
Who, Lance?
Yeah, Lance.
Oh,
he
absolutely.
was third for a while.
Dude, I mean, I don't know if we wanted to talk about this later, but I think, Aston Martin, has made some, pretty serious improvements. They were sort of a laughing stock at the start of the season, but, I mean, they've been putting in some serious results, and I've been seeing a lot of, because there's some, really exciting midfield battles happening over the next 3 GPs, but the battle between Alfa Romeo and Aston Martin it's extremely close. I mean, Alfa Romeo's leading them by 10 points, but if I'm correct, but Alfa Romeo's only actually scored points once in the last 10 races. Alfa Romeo started here and they're going down, and Aston Martin's going up. I hope that Aston Martin can at least compete a little bit harder next season, because I mean, it's fun to make jokes about him, but I do like Stroll for some reason. I do. I mean, I watched the highlights back from 2020. I freaking wish I could remember the name of the GP, but it was where he got pole. Bottas actually spun out 4 times during that race, which is a little funny since he did that again this week. But yeah, that race was brutal. I mean, bad strategy, degradation, not having warm tires. He dropped to P9, I think, at the end, so that's tough. But I would love to see Aston Martin have some success. I mean, they better, because I wouldn't want Fernando Alonso on my bad side, because he's pissed.
Yeah, I almost wonder if Seb is almost regretting leaving now because they're doing so well. But right. I guess those overages that they went over last year, I guess now it's finally starting to pay off, because the start of the year this year they had a lot of I don't know if it was controversy, but there was are they copying other teams' car? Are they had that weird rear wing that one race? It seems like they've just been kind of really just, I don't know, swimming against current, for lack of a better term. They just really haven't been making much progress, and yeah, it's nice to see. It was so. I mean, obviously we'll touch on it a little bit more, but Seb was so close to. I mean, I don't think he would have ended on the podium, but I mean, he was so close to such a good final U.S. Grand Prix, and then he just got screwed by the pits.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, before we get to that, I think just a couple more quick news items. And the last thing, well, we don't really have any more on Logan Sargeant. Just, I guess, excited for it. Excited to see what happens. Hopefully he does well. Another North American driver in there is not going to hurt. Hopefully he can do as well as Stroll, better than Latifi. So we got Ricciardo. A story came out that he has secured a reserve role for next year. He hasn't signed it, but he's secured one if he wants it. But it's not with Mercedes, he said. And he also said he hasn't turned down broadcasting, but basically he said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to be I'll be around next year, so don't worry about that." Would you rather see him be a Jensen Button type guy that's on the broadcast, quite frequently, like maybe half the races, or would you rather see him in a reserve role next year?
I think Daniel. It's tough because I want to see him come back and succeed. Go from reserve to maybe getting another seat. But I think with his personality and charisma, I mean, he needs to sign like a 10-year deal with like F1 TV or Sky Sports, like something like that. Because I mean, it's a no-brainer. His career is going to end at some point, and he has got to continue in broadcasting for sports. I mean that's a lot to say, but of course, he may want to go to Le Mans or IndyCar, NASCAR, even like Kimmy, who knows? But I would love to see him doing sort of commentary. Jensen Button, by the way, is one of the best commentators like out there. Like even when like Nico Rosberg is on. I enjoy it. I think previous drivers have so much more insight than anybody you could like potentially hire, no matter how big of a fan or even if you were involved in the pit crew. He's just so good. So I think Daniel would give like such amazing insight and would be a great commentator. But yeah, of course you don't want to see him completely leave. But who do you think he's signed with? I've been seeing pretty much the consensus is that it's Red Bull. But I mean, I could see it being anybody. It would, as long as it's not McLaren, because that would just be the biggest kick in the balls ever. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, I would say if it's McLaren, I would almost like lose respect for him. Like, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah, I have no idea. Red Bull would be kind of funny, I guess, but like, I just don't like. No offense to Danny, I just don't really see why Red Bull would need him. Do you know what I mean? Like, they seem to have everything down to a T.
Right.
But yeah, Jensen Button, I think I agree. He's of all the former drivers that aren't like on the broadcast every single week, he's definitely the best one. I think he's great. I heard some people throw his name out there for like if I always mix them up, but whoever the first one between Brundle and Crofty to retire, that Button could get in there because he's really good. But even like with I know like Brundle used to drive and like his just the way like they describe the turns, like it's or just like how you have to position the car into each everything. There's just the details and the knowledge of every single turn. It's unbelievable. So yeah, I think it's one of the sports where you really do need someone that has done it before. There's really no comparison to anything else like it. You can't just like in hockey, for example. Like I'd say half the guys are former hockey players, but a lot of the really good broadcasters aren't. Like you don't necessarily need to have played pro. But I guess there's like a huge difference between. I don't know. There's no like comparison. Like you can play like men's league hockey. Obviously, you're not going to be. It's not the same game, but it's like you're still playing. But there's no real like. You can't just go out and race cars,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyway, so I was kind of on a bit of a tangent there for no reason.
No,
but,
I like it.
What do you like? I don't know. I don't really have to answer your original question. I don't really have necessarily an opinion, I guess, on what team. Like, I thought if it was Mercedes, like, I thought it lined up perfectly for it to be Mercedes, and I was kind of excited to have him in there, but I don't really know. I don't have much of an opinion. Like, do you?
I low-key was hoping it would be with Mercedes. That, to me, just seems like that's just, like, so perfect. I don't know. Honestly, if he did become Mercedes reserve driver, it would just become like my absolute fantasy that George Russell would get fired and Danny would replace him. So we'll have to see, though.
Could like at least, I mean, I don't want to wish ill on anyone, but maybe he would just maybe get like COVID or something where he had to sit out for a few weeks, but he wasn't actually in danger or. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, no, I don't want him hurt. I just want him to get fired.
No. It'd be sweet. I just want him to lose his job and his livelihood and his dreams. I don't want him to get hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Like, I was talking about my mom and I were just discussing like what our favorite, like the ultimate podium, because it was close this weekend. Not really close, but when it looked like it could have been Lewis and Seb and then a third. So we like Lewis, Seb, and Danny Rick would just be like my dream podium. That would be amazing. But obviously not very likely. But yeah, we got Danny Rick remains to be seen, but he will be around, so that's good. Can't really get enough of him. He loves the States. Like he had a horrible drive this week, but he was putting on a show before, riding in on a horse, all that good stuff. So, yeah, good to see him kind of happy. I don't know. Yeah, he seems happy, and then... Yeah.
We can talk his treacherous drive once we get into the GP, but yeah, I mean, he's a showman for sure, so hopefully he can sort of put some of that personality to more use besides Netflix and can get into some broadcasting. But if that's not the case and he is determined to stay in motorsport, then God damn it, do it. Because I still have hope that he can find a team, whether it's whoever it's with. I mean, that hope will never go away.
Speaking of broadcasters,
I was just about to say I actually have somewhat of a little update on that. That's sort of what I was looking at over the last few seconds. Do you want to sort of run through that real fast?
Well, so yeah, I don't have, if you can pull up the actual
Yeah, I've got
tweets.
It right here.
Essentially, there was like a bit of a Twitter, I don't know if you can call it beef, but I guess people were complaining that something happened with either Brad Pitt on the pit walk. I didn't actually see the original what happened, but either they didn't get an interview with him or he brushed them off something. And people were complaining, I guess. And then Will Buxton said, like, well, we got a list of all the people that are on, like, are willing to do interviews or whatnot. So they should know before they ask him. Again, I don't really know the backstory. Adrian's going to fill in the blanks here. And then Brundle responded, like that's just not true, Will. Like, don't be putting out things here that aren't true just to match your story. So we could have a little potential F1 TV / Sky Sports, whatever else networks they work for, a little drama brewing here.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you pretty much.
Do you know how it started? Like, was there something that happened on the pit lane walk before the race? Because I didn't see that.
So yes, so Martin Brundle during his pit walk tried to approach Brad Pitt, and Brad Pitt brushed him off very rudely and pretty much said, "No, I'm not answering questions." Classic celebrity.
Doing an F1 movie.
Yeah, pompous. I mean, either he doesn't know who Martin Brundle is and he doesn't care, and either way, it makes me lose like a shit ton of respect for Brad Pitt because
it's bad luck.
Yeah, it's bad luck, and honestly, it makes me not want to watch his stupid fucking movie anymore because
he's there to find out more about F1.
Exactly.
And he's not willing to reciprocate.
Yeah,
like, that's just
like, I mean, obviously,
there, pal.
I'm obviously not Brad Pitt, but like, I would fucking jump off a bridge to leap at the chance to talk to Martin Brundle about F1. Like, go fuck yourself. But that sort of sparked like a whole thing online about like fuck Brad Pitt and like celebrities on the grid, which then prompted Will Buxton to tweet another USGP, another reminder that all grid accredited media are given a list at all caps every race of which media invitee / celebrity is and isn't approachable for the interview. Pitt hadn't been on any of the days he was present. So Martin Brundle replied, "That's simply untrue, Will. Don't make things up to suit your narrative." So Martin Brundle did reply. I'll get to that. But I'm sorry, Will Buxton replied. I'll get to that. Will Buxton, of course, is like jumping to the defense of Brad Pitt. I don't really necessarily know why, but I mean,
wants to be in his movie.
Yeah, probably. He's just sort of coming to the defense of a celebrity.
I won't even do a cameo.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you hadn't have turned down our cameo, Will, maybe I would have gone a little easier on you.
Trying to get a cameo in Brad's movie. He won't even do a cameo for us.
Exactly.
Again, hypocrisy.
We were trying to pay you. But he came to the defense of Brad Pitt, and Martin had that response, and people immediately jumped on Will Buxton's back as it's sort of deserved. And he just posted about an hour ago, Austin Talent Attendance Doc. Those who do not wish to be interviewed, and it's rare people ask not to be, are verbally communicated pre-grid. Then he said, "Must apologize, however, as I believed it was sent to all TV as routine, and it appears it might not be. Anyways, off to enjoy Mexico City." And he posts a video with it is a celebrity attendance doc. It does not have Brad Pitt on that, but does that mean that Martin Brundle should not approach Brad Pitt on the grid? No. Does it explicitly say on that list, "Do not interview Brad Pitt"? No. It literally, Will Buxton is pretty much saying like, "Oh, since you didn't see Brad Pitt on that list, you shouldn't have walked up to him." And he had that excuse to act like that, which, is pretty funny to me. Maybe he's just trying to sort of keep the peace, but I don't know. That's just a little shitty to me.
Yeah, it's a weird angle for Will Buxton. It's like, it's not like Brad Pitt was just happened to be there. Like, he was in the Red Bull paddock all weekend long, soaking up, loving knowing the cameras were on him and Christian Horner all week. They were laughing it up in front of the cameras all weekend. He's there to do research, probably like interviews and stuff, for his F1 movie. Maybe not interviews, but you know what I mean? Like, he's there to see what it's like to get research for his movie. So and then on top of that, like, that is literally the job on the pit lane walk, is to go up and ask people questions. Like, if you don't want to be asked questions, I'm sorry, but just don't be like standing there. There should maybe be like a section or like a certain time. Like, I think it's partially on F1 for like, you should have like a sectioned off area or something, because I always do find it weird that they're just walking with the camera and like no one's really giving them much, I don't want to say respect, but they're having to like push their way through people. You'd think there'd be a couple more employees like guiding a path for them or like going ahead to get people interviews. But some of the best moments we've had have been when he's just gone up and approached people, and maybe like credit to him that he keeps trying, because I mean, he's had some really bad ones where he's got brushed off and he keeps going back for them. So good for him, because it's like, yeah, Megan Thee Stallion, he's had, I mean, just, it's usually in the United States, like, because they don't, I guess, know who he is, they don't care. But yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of a strange, like, like you said, do we want him not to be trying to get these interviews? Like, I think anyone, on top of that, anyone that's like a celebrity that's kind of purposely be putting their name on that list, like, oh, interview me, I want you to interview me, like, ahead of time emailing in to be like, I want to be interviewed on the pit lane. I think that's also a little strange too. It's like, why do you want to be interviewed so badly? So
yeah,
I don't know, it's just, the whole thing is a little disorganized, but not a good look for Buxton is my...
No, it honestly kind of looks worse for Buxton than it does for almost Brad Pitt, because I actually I added the clip to our doc so you can watch it now or later if you want, but I had watched it the night of the race, and it did piss me off, but he wasn't like a complete dickhead about it. Like, he's like doing like, oh, I'm charming Brad Pitt, like, oh no man, I can't do that, no, like big smiles. Like, he wasn't like, fuck off, Mark, fuck off, I'm not talking to you. But he still like completely snubbed him. Like, there's no denying that. It was a total snub, and people were like trying to pull Martin away. Like, very, 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 very strange scene. I don't know if I would necessarily call Brad Pitt a complete dickhead for that. But yeah, it's definitely not a good look. But yeah, I posted the clip if you want to watch it. It draws the question, do we even want celebrities on the grid? The whole thing to me, honestly, just that tweet is just like why are you, it's just Will Buxton trying to insert himself into a situation where he's not even, nobody asked. Yeah,
100%. And like the whole point, like, that they're there, I mean, maybe not with Brad Pitt, but a lot of them, the reason they're there is, no offense, is to be seen. So like, you can't really have your cake and eat it too. You want to be seen to be on the pit lane, the pit walk and all that, but then if you want to be out, like, you don't want to be asked questions, well, I mean, it's kind of like I said, you can't really have your cake and eat it too. So
yeah, I
think they do need to make some changes to that. You can have like another separate thing that goes like on the other side of the car, so you can get just as close. But being on the actual grid, I think even that is a little strange. Like, just because you're a celebrity, you get to do that? That's not fair. I don't want to go in there.
No, not at all.
But yeah, we can finally move on to the half an hour in. We can move on to the USGP, because this was, if not the best, this was certainly one of the best races of the year, especially coming off back-to-back pretty much rain-shortened events. So
yes.
This was great. Before the actual race, there was another, probably the best helmet race of the year.
Yes.
So I put the link in there. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll put a couple, like a picture or two of each in the video. But I mean, some unbelievable ones. Danny Ricciardo with the Ricky Bobby, obviously. Zhou Guan Yu had a really cool, like,
yeah, I'm looking at that one.
It was like jeans and a belt, but it was like, I don't know, the material of it's really cool. Obviously, the Spider-Man one, that's goated. That's amazing. Sebastian Vettel with the most Sebastian Vettel helmet of all time with like the peace, love, like hippie thing.
60s US.
Yeah. Charles Leclerc barbecue inspired helmet. It doesn't look that cool, but it's kind of funny. Max's was kind of simple. I think Stroll's look pretty cool.
Yeah, the leather.
Sorry for the people that are just on audio, but yeah, it's like it looks just like leather that's been like kind of carved or whatever to have like wings almost on the side.
Mix is so good. Mix is so good.
Yeah, no,
Mix is so Texas.
Let's see. Oh, he's got like the cowboy on there.
Yeah,
that's the guy riding the horse. Yeah,
Haas. They nailed the American stuff usually.
Yeah, it's got like the burnt orange. Yeah,
Zhou Guan Yu's blue jean helmet is awesome. But yeah, you shouted me out last episode because I wasn't able to make it. But that Spider-Man helmet is just chef's kiss. God, it's amazing. Yeah. God damn, it's amazing.
Well, keep an eye out because they usually sell like I don't know if the terminology is like 1/8. I know there'd be like it was 1/4. You'd say like a quarter version. What would an 1/8 version be? I don't know, but they sell those usually for ones that are popular. So I know he's not your favorite driver, but if you can get a mini version of that,
I would totally buy it.
Alpine helmet. You can look into it. But yeah, on to the actual race. It didn't really take long from lights out till we had a crash, and then upon further review, I guess it's still a little voice crack there. I guess it's still a little bit up for debate, but it's pretty much. I mean, he got a penalty. It's pretty much settled that it was George Russell's fault. He even apologized, but George Russell takes with Carlos Sainz. That's got to just be like, if Sainz doesn't have bad luck, he doesn't have any luck at all. What was that, the fourth time he's crashed out on the first lap this year? Yeah, right after getting pole. Not a great start in general for him. Like Max was zooming by him. Yep. But yeah, I don't know. Thoughts on that? Anything?
Oh man, just George Russell. He cannot do wheel-to-wheel racing. I mean, we knew this when he was in Williams. I mean, Bottas will be the first one to vouch for that. He cannot do wheel-to-wheel racing. He has ruined so many drivers' races, and somehow he manages to pull his own car through and manages to continue. So I hope he can just stop fucking up other people's races, because it's getting to be a problem, it seems like, because it's happened so many times this season. And he did apologize to Sainz, but I mean, it's just extremely frustrating. And then, of course, you had the Alonso and Stroll crash later, which was insane.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Like let's just touch on that, because the Russell thing, like, it was his fault. He took out Sainz. Absolutely sucks for Sainz, but there's really not much more to add on it. Like, it's just unfortunate. But the Alonso Stroll, there's kind of some meat on that bone, because I mean, we can kind of skip a bit all over our notes here, but like we can just put all the Alonso stuff together, because it's like, yeah. So he's coming up. This is my opinion of it. You can give me yours. He's coming up behind Stroll. I believe he has DRS on a straight, and at the last second, as he's going, and like they go for such tight passes. I think it was going on the long straight, going from turn 11 to 12. DRS zone, and then as he's going just to the left to go to the pass, Lance Stroll moves just to the left, and Alonso goes right up the back of it, and it was like almost like an airplane taking off. Like his front wheels were completely like multiple feet off the ground. It was crazy. Like it was kind of scary.
Yeah,
he hits into the wall. Somehow his car, I mean, they yellow flagged it, but somehow his car was able to stay in the race. And then I guess so we can talk about that, and then we can talk about kind of what happened after the race. But very, very dangerous move for Stroll. I think Jacques Villeneuve said that he thinks Stroll, and this is an overreaction, but he said he thinks Stroll should be given a race ban, because like that type of move is the type of move that could kill someone, and that I don't disagree with, because
it could have killed him for sure.
Yeah, it reminded me of, in a worse way, like when in Jeddah last year, when Max was supposed to let Lewis go by, and he kind of slowed down a little bit.
Yeah,
weirdly
in the middle.
Lewis when he was back, and that was at slower speeds, and like the fact that Lewis was able to still go on, and same here, but like that was scary. That could have ended really, really badly. So, yeah, weird, because Stroll was having like such a good race, and like the second I watched that, like you can't do that. You can't just, even in a video game, like, you can't just cut left right when a guy's trying to pass on your left. Like you wouldn't even do that on the highway. Like, I don't know.
I think he was trying to I think he definitely cut too much. I mean, you can I mean,
too late, maybe?
all drivers do that to where they just slowly edge the driver over just to try to like get them to lose a little bit of speed. But yeah, it was definitely a big bummer move. But I mean, he's famous for not checking his mirrors. So
yeah.
But that crash was that crash was so fucking scary. Oh yeah, but on the topic of mirrors.
Yeah, it was just I had to keep going.
Yeah,
it was the mirrors. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so Alonso got this car back in the race, and then during sort of a battle with Kevin Magnussen on the straight, his mirror actually broke, or his right mirror actually broke off of the car and sort of bounced off the track, and which that in of itself is also dangerous because, like, God forbid if that mirror had like hit Kevin, like, even with the helmet on, like, that could have like seriously fucked him up, or God forbid it went under the helmet and somehow hit him in the torso. Like, serious damage could have happened. But do we want to say what ended up happening with Alonso?
Yeah, I think we might as well just kind of tie it up.
Yes, he ended up finishing P7, P8,
originally P7, and then Haas kind of.
Yeah, Haas, rightfully so, protested, even though it's not Alonso's fault. Alpine definitely probably should not have sent that car out after that crash.
And it's happened to Haas a bunch of times where they have called him in.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, the FIA have been like a complete joke. I mean, even the stewards themselves have openly like talked against the race director because, I mean, so many inconsistencies. It is unbelievable. It's definitely bias, some extreme biases. There's no denying that. Haas was so in the right to protest that, and it ended up paying off for them because Alonso dropped down to P15, which brought Vettel, Kevin, Mick, and Ocon up a place, I believe.
Makes sense.
I mean, technically everybody from 14.
Everyone underneath.
Yeah, but I think it brought those guys an extra point.
Vettel, Magnussen, Tsunoda, and Ocon.
Tsunoda, that was it. That's it. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely
sneaky ninth place for Tsunoda.
Right? I'm excited.
I didn't even hear about that. Like, that's the first.
You got some points. Where did and Gasly? Actually, you have that, so we'll talk on that later. But it's unfortunate. I mean, there was a pic of Alonso literally sitting on the front right wheel. With just his head in his hands. I mean that is got to be rough. I mean, after all that, sticking it out after that crash, then dropping down, that's just got to suck. Of course, he didn't know that he lost the place at that point, but I mean, it's just such inconsistencies. It's alarming, but I'm glad he's safe, and it's sad that he wasn't able to secure those points for Alpine.
Yeah, but we'll see. 1 second here. Let's go with that reverberation. I think it was a great drive for Perez. Getting mixed up here. It was a great drive for Alonso. I think like Alpine is challenging it because their point is like it wasn't his fault that the car got damaged, and Alonso's saying like it's important for the sport that I don't know, I guess it's just grandstanding, but
yeah.
It's like I can kind of see both sides of it from Haas's perspective. Like, they've got the flag to come in. I know it happened in Canada for Magnussen. It's happened a few times to them this year. And then Perez and Alonso both had damaged cars. Perez was okay. But, like, Alonso's mirror did fly off, so I can see why they're upset, thinking that's a little dangerous. Like, that makes sense to me. You got a 10-second stop and go, which I guess they equate 30 seconds race time, so we dropped 7th to 15th. But they're challenging that. But just like an amazing.
He should have been given a black and white flag.
Yeah, he should have had to come in.
He should have been given a warning
you can't really
during the race.
Repair a wing, obviously you can repair a wing or like a tires, obviously, but replace. But I don't think you can replace a mirror on the go, can you? Like, that would have had to been his race would have been over, basically. I assume.
Right. I mean, it ended up being,
unless there's like snap-on mirrors. I've just never seen that.
No, I don't think so. I definitely think they would have just had to bring the car in, which is probably would have been the smart thing to do. It should have been what they did from the beginning. I mean, I get Alonso.
Right.
Alonso probably wanted to keep going, but I mean, like, come on. But
yeah, I didn't even notice for a while, and then it was like, oh wait, he's he's still out there? Like, what's going on here? It was just like an automatic assumption that his car was done.
Yeah.
And then the other weird one, so Gasly, I think, like after the tractor thing, the FIA is kind of, they're kind of being a little bit weird toward Gasly, but anyways, he was given a 5-second penalty and 2, what are they called? Just 2 drivers, like license penalty points, whatever.
Yeah.
If you get like a certain amount, you miss the race. But upon further review, 16 drivers did the exact same thing that Gasly did. I think it was like the gap to the safety car, something like that. And they were not given a penalty, but he was given 5 seconds and 2 penalty points. So that's kind of strange. The FIA is just very inconsistent, as we've just discussed. But
yeah,
those were like the penalties and all that. But in terms of the actual race, like we did have a great race. It was going along relatively smooth. Like after the first lap, it was going pretty smoothly for, I don't know, what would you say, like 20 or so laps, 20, 30, 35 laps. Max had his pit issues, followed by his great radio. I think it was like an 11-second pit. And then, like, Lewis had already pitted before that, so he was basically like third, past another guy, and then past Vettel to get first. So it was the race was on basically. Verstappen third, Charles second, and then Lewis first. But Charles made an amazing move on Checo to pass him, and then Verstappen and Charles had that really cool switcheroo move. We've seen that a few times this year from Charles. He pulled that off. Verstappen obviously got by him, and Lewis was leading from like lap 41 to lap 50, I think it was. So he, like, I don't know, I was ecstatic. I was like, I thought this is the race. This is the time.
Yeah,
it's finally happening. Button was going on about this is Lewis's best track. Oh my god, it was just, but you could just see it happening. Like every lap, it was going down and down. You could tell Lewis was using everything he had in the car, like all the battery and everything. And then once Max got past, he put up a valiant effort trying to stay. Like he stayed in DRS for a while, but he had like no battery. Max then like just went away, but
it was over.
It was tough. But yeah, that's pretty much the race itself. I mean, they had that. Lewis was being a little bit like, I could see why people that don't like Lewis would have been annoyed by the fact that he kept coming on the radio about track limits. Part of that is also the broadcast was showing, like, playing it every time, but yeah, Max was close to track limits. So was Lewis, though. Everyone was with the wind. And then after the checker flag, well, after Max passed, we had an unbelievable battle between, sorry, I'm sweating over here, between Sebastian Vettel and Kevin Magnussen. A little dab. Amazing battle between Seb and K-Mag. That was unbelievable in literally the last stretch. So Seb came out on top of that one. That was great.
That move from Seb was fucking gorgeous. I mean, going around the outside on the final turn, I mean, that is just so ballsy. And him and K-Mag had like a nice moment. Like there's mutual respect between those two guys for sure, which is awesome. That's great. That's always great to see. Kevin didn't.
Yeah, Vettel said it was like one of his favorite moments ever racing or something. But
yeah,
sorry, I went on there. That was
you're good.
My race group cap. Anything? I have a few things I want to talk about after the race, but yeah, what was like your opinion on any of the main like points of the race? While you said, I'm just gonna get like a pop or something because I'm sweating over here. Whew.
No, you're good,
Keep
buddy.
talking.
It's a little warm up there in Canada. But yeah, that Seb, it's so cool that he got to get that last awesome move in his final USGP. It's a shame that he's retiring this year because, I mean, he's ending on 299 Grand Prix starts. Like, that is tough. That's really tough. It's nice that he was able to get a few more points. Hopefully he can get even more points before the end of the year, but we'll have to see. It's definitely sad to see Seb leaving, but it's awesome that Aston Martin was at least able to let him have that small bit of a push towards the end of the season so that he wasn't just like completely just suffering in his last season, sort of like Alonso did before his first retirement. But after the checkered flag, we had good old American Tim Cook with the checkered flag, and it's already become a meme. I mean, it was like the most robotic like checkered flag wave you could imagine. I mean, it was awful.
It was it was like
sorry, I had to cough for a
like.
Second.
No, it was you nailed it. It was robotic. It was something about those tech guys. They were like, it's like they have an implant in their brains or something. Because he wasn't even like, he was moving his arm back and forth. Like, you got to give it a little give it a little wrist flick or something. The flag was not, and it was a windy day. They didn't need much assistance.
Mm-hmm.
Not much assistance. But no, that was the worst all time. Like, no matter how much money you have, that was the worst reflexes I've seen in a long time. One thing that you point out, that's is kind of like, I don't know if sad's the right word, but Seb retiring on 299. I think he'll get 300. I think someone's gonna miss a race next year, and they're gonna let Seb. Especially, I think he said, like, Japan, he wants to have, like, he kind of is upset the way that it ended this year with the rain and stuff. Mm-hmm. So maybe, I'm hoping he'll get one more, because 300 is a great number to go out on. There's nothing, like, really, in the grand scheme of things, like, does it really matter? But it's just like that round number just looks nice. But yeah, absolutely. Tim Cook, and absolutely just a weird podium afterwards. I didn't see the cool down room, to be honest. I tend to I was a little upset that Max won, so I didn't want to. I don't know. I was just envisioning.
I didn't even know if there was a cool down room.
Well, I hope there wasn't, because I turned it off. But I saw afterwards that the podium, like the champagne, that Helmut Marko just went to town on Lewis Hamilton. Like, he walked right to Lewis Hamilton and just poured the bottle on Lewis Hamilton. Like, he was not interested in anyone else. I don't know if that was like a gesture of goodwill or trying to be funny, or if that was just like a fuck you, Lewis. Like, I don't know how to take it. Like, part of me is like, oh, he was just being an asshole, that old man. He's always racist towards Lewis. Part of me is like, oh, maybe he was just trying to, like, be nice. Like, oh, that was a great race, Lewis. Maybe he was like, we beat you again. I don't know. Like, I don't know. But I don't know if you saw that. But that was something to see him just going right after Lewis. Max was even like,
I think it's a mix of all three.
Like, Max got no attention. They just won the constructors. Like, what's going on up there?
He's like, I have my chance. I'm taking it, bitch. I definitely think it's probably a mix of all three of those in varying amounts. Yeah. But yeah, that was funny to me. I like to think it was in good merit.
I'd like to hope so. I think if it wasn't, then we probably would have heard something. But yeah, I didn't. As much as I was upset, I kind of wish I would have hung around just to see if there was any good moments between Lewis and Max. I know they have their, like, kind of fake moments, but it's cool. Pretty much any conversation in the cool down room, or in general, anytime they're, like, mic'd up and you can hear them talking to one another. Anytime you get that, it's cool, between any of the drivers. But yeah, just quick Mercedes. Lewis had a quote afterwards, another thing I didn't see. So I don't know, like, the tone or the necessarily context fully, but just from this quote that I'm seeing, he told Sky Sports in regards to his race and prospects for the future, what I'll take from today is that we had good pace. I am still here. Still be rise. I am still here, and I know that when they build the car, I will take it to the top. We've just got to keep on working. So he's saying he will take Mercedes to the top when the car is ready. So he's still got the fire. He still believes that they're coming back. So he's not done. There's been a little bit of... I only mentioned this. I know some people are like, yeah, obviously he's going to say that. But there's also a lot of people saying, like, he's done. He's going to retire. Mercedes is washed. It's Red Bull's time. But, I mean, at least he thinks they're on the right track and that they're going to win. Because we have also seen a lot of quotes come out from him and Toto this year that are just like, yeah, we've got no chance. This is an absolute disaster. So that's my Lewis update for all fellow season.
Oh yeah, fellow risers. But I think this season has been like an experiment for a lot of teams. So I really think it was really only a Ferrari Red Bull win this season. I mean, we pretty much knew that from the start, but I don't agree with this narrative that it's a Red Bull domination period like we saw for Mercedes about to happen. No way. I don't think that's ever going to happen, especially with Mercedes, now that they've made the cost cap fair amongst all teams, and that Red Bull's for sure going to get some sort of penalty, whether it's less wind tunnel time and a fine or whatever that is. But next season is going to be big. I mean, this first season is just kind of a wash. I mean, I think they all know that. No way any teams are even thinking about this car for the rest of the season. Like, it's all for next year. So I'm really excited. I think next year is going to have, like, we could have a really, really exciting battle, which I'm hoping we do.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think like we saw at the beginning of the year, even the best teams, even Red Bull, like they had so many DNFs from engine issues or whatever the case may be, and they've had issues with the tires. Like that's another thing we didn't mention. Didn't really feel like it was necessarily worth mentioning, but they did a tire test, so they're already working on new tires. They're doing another tire test this weekend in Mexico for slicks. So like there's going to be some more changes, but I think generally the teams that can afford to, are namely Ferrari and Mercedes, are going to kind of take what Red Bull did well and adapt what they've learned and come into next year and hopefully, like, I don't know, just the dream of every F1 fan, even if you're Red Bull, is just to have, like, we had the two-way fight last year, but it was really just two drivers. But to have a three-way true fight, like Lewis, Max, and Charles, and then if you throw in the other three on those teams, like, that's the dream. I mean, but a three-way, like, going into every race, it's like you don't know which of those three, like, that would just be amazing to have it go down to at least this part of the schedule next year. So, I think that, like, I don't know, if you're maybe like an outside person looking in, you could maybe look at the season and be like, oh, that was a boring season. Max and Red Bull just ran away with it. But it hasn't really felt like that. I felt like Red Bull has just been like a little bit ahead. Like they've just been always a little bit ahead, and no one could really catch up. But that's sort of the nature of things. And moving on to Mexico, I think, right? Like, do you have anything else to add on Red Bull? Because I mean, I haven't really given you much of a chance to gloat that your boys won first title since 2013.
Yes, almost a decade. Yeah. Props to Red Bull. It's exciting. You know, I definitely don't want more seasons like this. I want Red Bull to fight to win. I want to be excited when they win. I mean, it's just so boring now because, I mean, I think if you compare Checo to the rest of the cars, it's a lot closer than Max. I think Max is just so like on point right now, and he's so in tune with the car. It's just like, I mean, you're taking like, regardless of how much better it is, you're the best car, and just Max's just absolute determination. It's just, I mean, the gaps that he's able to do is insane. So I'm hoping that it's a little bit closer, and I'm hoping that he gives Checo a home GP win next week. That would be nice.
That brings us. Viva la Mexico! I don't know if that's the right term, but we're going to go with it. So we're in Mexico, and that's kind of the I guess the main thing. I guess so. We'll go in order here. We got race times, 4:00. So this is perfect for us here. I loved the 3:00 race this week. That was great. Qualifying is also 4:00.
Yes.
One thing that was kind of weird this week was they had qualifying at 6 p.m. and then the race at 3. Like very different times. But anyways. Mexico, race at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, qualifying 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And then the practices are 2 o'clock P1, 5 o'clock P2, 1 o'clock P3. All good times for us here. Weather looks like maybe a bit of cloud, but mainly sunny. I don't think that's going to be an issue. It would probably evaporate relatively quickly anyways, unless it was a big storm. Then, what do we got here for the circuit? We've got 71 laps this race. It is kind of a short track, but the third sector especially, I know from playing the game, the third sector is very strange with the stadium section. That last exit out of there is a hard one to nail. And then they have, maybe this or Baku, probably the longest straight on the calendar.
Or China.
Like that. Yeah, just that first sector, like the entire first sector basically is a straight until like those quick little turns at the end, but
and that start last year is still
cool. It's a long, like from the starting line to I think it might be one of the longest again, from the starting line to the first turn. It's very long, so tough. It's gonna be tough for the guys that don't start well. But this has been on the track on the calendar, a track on the calendar for a long time. First Grand Prix 1963. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. But really what it comes down to, I think Ferrari might have a bit of straight line speed, but if you combine the long straights with the tight turns, it's, inevitable that this is going to be a Red Bull track, I think, unless, anything can happen, obviously. But then that comes down to what you started the conversation with, which is, does Max have it in him to let Checo win? And part of the thing we have to factor in is Max is tied right now for the most wins in a season, despite there being longer seasons now, so it's a record that doesn't matter for anything. Nobody should factor that record in. Shouldn't even be in the record books. It's a Fugazi record.
Yeah.
I'll stop. But yeah, do you think, knowing Max, realistically, is there any chance that he eases up on Checo? Because, like, Checo got a podium last year, and like his dad was running on the track, everyone was going nuts. That was just a podium, right? That wasn't a win.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a win. Checo, I think his dad would explode if he won in Mexico. Max is definitely not going to give it to him. There's no way.
Not going to give it,
just,
but
like, no. It would take a DNF for Checo, just like completely, just going balls to the wall and giving us like another Monaco or, what was the other race he won?
Oh, it was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was. But, yeah, it's going to take something akin to that for him to be able to seize this win. And Max, as stupid as that record may be, he's definitely going for it. And I'm sure he wants to extend it as much as possible. I mean, if he's like, shit, if I can add 3 to that, I'm going to do it. Nobody's ever going to touch that, probably. With as many races,
exactly.
like, it is a dumb...
I'm joking a little bit, like...
Yeah, it's a stupid...
Well, like, right now it's dumb,
one.
But 20 years from now, if they've done 23, 24 races every year, then that... You know, like, eventually it's going to hold more validity in terms of, like that number could be a number, like, that people look at. Like, that's the bar, right? So, I mean,
it was
as much
Singapore,
as
by the way.
Singapore, okay. There we go. But yeah, as much as I don't love the fact that it's Max taking this record, yeah, I think it makes sense for him to want, especially with his mindset. He's all about winning and pushing things to the next level. So it makes sense that he wants it. I guess, like, the scenario, if all the other cars are out of it, the scenario, let's say Checo is up with 2 laps to go and Max gets within DRS, like he gets within a second. Does Max push Checo those last, like, does Max go pedal to the metal the last 2 laps trying to pass Checo, or does he kind of take the 1-2? I guess that would be the ultimate scenario.
Yeah, I think he would take the 1-2 probably. I would think that's probably the wiser thing to do. And in that scenario, he's probably like, okay, yeah, you get the win. You get it. It's going to take something like that, though, I think.
Yeah, that would be interesting, though, if he, like, comes up on the back of him and then it's like, because he'd probably be like on the radio, like, tell Checo to get out of the way. And Checo would be like, no. It's my home Grand Prix. Like, it would be cool to see Checo win there, obviously.
Be awesome.
But yeah, so that's kind of the thing to look out for. Obviously, hope that some other cars can get in there. It does seem like, as pumped up as I get for quali, I know you love quali as well. Sometimes it's the best part of the weekend. It does almost seem like this year compared to last year, it seems a little bit like pointless.
Right, yeah.
Like obviously it does, like, for the top of the grid, it's almost pointless because, like, no matter who gets pole, Max is pretty much by turn 1, Max is in first. Unless he's, like, got a grid penalty or something. Like, obviously, I want to see Lewis not, like, P8. I want to see him, like, P2, P3, P4. So that matters. But pretty much, like, if Max is starting in the top 3, by turn 1, like, Perez isn't the best at starting. We've seen Carlos Sainz isn't very good at starting. Russell is brutal at starts around other cars. So unless it's Hamilton or Charles, like... Like, if you're Max, it's just got to be so comforting knowing, like, no one can take me here.
Right, yeah.
He probably feels that way anyways, but yeah, that's kind of all I got on that. But onto our standings in our Haas League, because it is getting tight, my friend. You have really tightened the noose.
Yes.
You may not have to get that passport just quite yet, because going into this race, I was up by 48. I think the race before I was up by 69. I remember because that number sticks in my brain, and I'm a child. So yeah, this race, you once again have narrowed the gap. You got 59 points, led of course by Max and Charles. I had 43 points, led by Lewis and Lewis and Sergio. Nice. So I now only lead by 27 points.
Ooh.
So down from 48 to 27. So you have slimmed that down. It is 3 races left. This is more exciting. I mean, I know we've been saying it for weeks, but kind of tongue in cheek because it wasn't that close. But this is legitimately coming down to the wire. So I'm gonna have to like write down the teams now and watch. Be like, oh, I'm glad that guy crashed.
Oh my god.
I mean, either way, it's like I would be happy to go visit you. It's just I want to win for the competition, not for the actual punishment.
No, I still really want to come to see Canada and potentially go to Montreal. But I really want to see Toronto really, really, really bad, regardless. So as far as competition goes, yes, I want to win. But, I mean, I would love to still come to Canada regardless. So it's exciting.
We'll set that up. Yeah. No, that was probably the most we've talked about. We were just start to finish, just F1 stuff. Usually we have like a couple little tidbits we throw in there, kind of our personal lives or whatever, but there's just so much to talk about this week, which is a nice change because the last little bit, it's sort of been some rumors sprinkled in, but the racing, there's just been like there was a break and then there was some rain and I mean, it just hasn't been the best. There's always storylines, but this was just a lot of fun. The times like with it being in the US just great. Like that's what an F1 weekend's all about.
Yes.
Fans, everything. It was great. I think on a harder soft level, we have one update. As always, we do appreciate and we need you guys to like and subscribe. But we have a new, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to let you talk about that because I'm in my 30s now and no one wants to hear a man in his 30s talk about social media. So go.
Man, I think we're too young to be talking about Facebook, but we are starting a Facebook page for our podcast, Harder Soft F1 Podcast, on Facebook. We have sort of just made the decision recently to sort of do a little push on Facebook. So if you go to look it up right now and it's like not finished or it doesn't look like it's all put together, we're still working on it, but it's coming. I see a lot of potential with Facebook as far as growth and views and stuff goes. So we're going to keep pushing on YouTube and TikTok and all that stuff, but we're also going to start posting on Facebook. And you can check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast, Harder Soft F1 Podcast. And we're on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, Harder Soft F1. Is there anything you want to add before we finish up?
Nope. Great race from Lewis. Unfortunately, couldn't get it done, but it's good to see that fire in him. He put up a good fight. High hopes for 2023, but still gonna be watching this weekend. Love that we got back-to-backs. Thanks everybody for listening. Harder Soft Podcast. Adrian, hope you feel better and you can not be bedridden for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. Or watching. I always mess that up.